So Scott is actually, he's the founder and director of Two Creative, and has been working with natural materials for the last 15 years. He's the reason that we wanted to bring in Scott for this presentation was mainly because he's worked across all types of different natural materials to create high-performing homes here in South Australia. That includes straw, hemp, earth, and lime. And specifically, Scott is actually utilizing these products for their health benefits, obvious sustainability credentials, and also versatility, and checking off on a lot of those aspects of, the building physics that James was alluding to as well. Scott is also the current president of the Australian Straw Bale Association, ASBN, and has continuously been leading the way in promoting the art and science of straw building. So
yeah, as Ken alluded to, I'm here to talk about how natural materials can lead to high-performing houses, as well as the health benefits involved in that, while also being very low impact on the environment. I think Ken probably covered off most of my introduction there. So, yeah, been in South Australia working with natural materials for the last 15 years. Major focus has been on straw bale, but sort of concentrating on the natural rendering side of it as well, and starting to branch out into the hempcrete as that's becoming more popular and more requests and demands for that. And yeah, as Ken said, I'm the current president of the Australian Straw Bale Building Association. Have been on the committee for the last 9 years, and yeah, we're just there to help people with help people build their straw bale houses with knowledge, and leading the way with research and fire. One of the biggest things is the fire testing at the moment, so we're continually working on that, but I'll talk about that a little bit more shortly. So firstly, I'd like to talk about straw bale and how it can be used. So just a quick rundown on the building process. You may or may not be aware of it. So we're using the small squares, so they're basically 900 by 450 by 350, and they're stacked basically in a brick pattern, as you see here. You can stack them either on their edge or on flat, and then they're tensioned down to the slab and create quite a solid walling system there. And then 35 mil of render on either side. So we mostly use a lime render on those, especially on the outside, but can use earth render and have done quite a few times on the inside. So the benefits of straw bale, basically straw bale is, the insulation value of that is probably second to none. We're looking at, most research shows between 7 to 10 R rating. They're great for sound insulation as well, which is really good in high traffic areas. The aesthetics, so a lot of people either just love the feel of it, so they're going a little bit more away from the traditional you might have seen in the past, where they're really round and curved and lumps and bumps all over the place, and people are wanting them probably more in suburbia, to look smoother, straighter, and just have those nice solid walls and give a nice, real warm, homey feel. And the flexibility of them, so what I mean there is you can pretty much mould them into whatever shape you like the previous picture, cut niches out into them, providing wall cavities. You can create curved walls, round walls, and then you can create all sorts of things with the natural renders on those too. The other great thing with it is that because it is, the straw's a living thing, that as it's growing, it absorbs the carbon from the atmosphere. So we're then capturing that in the walls. So we're sequestering the carbon there, and that's quite good there. Next I'd like to talk about is the hempcrete, which is probably a newer, one of the newer natural materials that are being used at the moment. So basically the hemp hurd or shiv is mixed together with a lime binder. And this is then lightly packed, as you can see by the picture, into formwork. There are companies that are starting to do that, and we're looking at doing it as well, starting to spray that into walls, and that will help reduce the cost and hopefully make that a bit quicker. But yeah, that's all a process at the moment. But yeah, some of the other states are spraying that in. Yeah, so again, that gives quite a good performance there. Usually for a 300 thick wall, you're looking at about an R4 rating on the insulation. So that's probably the other thing I missed there was once the wall's been packed, you then have render either side, and then that way that traps the air inside that wall and creates your insulation there. That's the recommended way. Some cases people like to leave it exposed, but in my opinion that does stop that air being trapped there and creating that nice thick insulative wall. So yes, there's a little bit more there. Great sound insulation as well. Again, the aesthetics, I think a lot of people that like natural materials like the look of them as well. You always get the comments that they're a warm feel, a different feel. And again, with the hemp being grown, it's capturing carbon as it's grown and is trapped inside the wall there as well. And probably a thing with both the straw and the hemp is that they're both a byproduct, waste products. So traditionally, straw was always burnt, which then put more carbon in the atmosphere. And so, yeah, now that can be baled up, another source of income for farmers. Likewise for the hemp, when it's not being used for food or material, it's sort of the fine bits of the stalk that are chipped up and to create the shiv. So apart from those, there are quite a few other natural building materials around. So most of you have probably seen rammed earth as well. It's been around for quite a while. Again, you're then moving away from the insulative values and moving into the thermal mass. So I sort of see with natural buildings using a combination of various natural materials there. So there's always various schools of thought, but I believe in like the rammed earth, mud brick, cob being used inside to hold and store as a heat bank inside the house, and then having the house wrapped with the insulation of either straw or hemp. Light clay and straw is another option there. So in the pictures, you'll see we've got a mud brick house here. That's actually quite an old one, which I did a repair on. This is another product. So then you're coming into products like what James is doing with the life panels. We've used a straw panel here, which is a compressed straw, which is called DuraPanel. And that's quite good. Again, it's just basically compressed straw under heat with a cardboard layer over the top of it, and then you can put a finish on that, whether you flush and paint it, or we usually render over that with a thin layer of render just for colour and texture. As you can see down the bottom here, in the bottom right-hand corner here, that is the Dura panel. In a straw bale house, we've just replicated that and built that out to make it look like a straw bale wall as well. And still on the other forms of natural building, so we've got a clay slip up the top here, which is mixed with the straw, loose straw, and then packed into a wall, and that's your light clay and straw. Again, quite good for internal walls, to use it as a natural insulation. And then a cob wall, like Warradale, the house at Warradale, they used that, and there's one down in Aldinga that would have been open for the Sustainable House Day. Packed the wall with the cob and then basically rendered over the top of that. So that just creates a good thermal mass there. It is more labour intensive, as you can probably imagine. In both cases, they had lots of friends and family that helped, which helps reduce those costs there as well. So the other thing that I want to talk about is the natural renders. So these don't necessarily have to be used in natural buildings only. They can be incorporated into any building and still achieve some benefits there. So lime-based products, so from a straight lime plaster through to polished finishes, such as a Tadillac finish, which is basically just using smaller grades, aggregates in there, such as marble dust, polished up really fine, and that is polished so fine that it gives a water repellency there, and is being used in wet areas for centuries, Romans and the like, creating that. And then earth renders, so basically there we're looking at clay and sand mixes, and again can be sourced locally from the building site or from a local quarry. And then you've got combinations of both, so lime and clay, which is a Japanese technique which is called otsumagagi, and again that's quite a polished, fine render finish there. And then you can get into some more fancy things, like we've got on the picture next to the barn door there. That's actually a lime plaster with tints through that to create just various different effects, stone effects there. So as you can see with straw, we mostly spray on the render for the first two coats, which to ultimately get to the 35 mil. Down the bottom here, we've got another polished lime finish, which then has mica chips in it, which you probably can't quite see there, but with using the lamb's wool, that sort of exposes that, and you get that nice sparkle that was used in a bathroom, a nice green bathroom there. So why use natural materials in your buildings? So the biggest thing is probably the temperature control. So keeping it nice and warm in winter, cool in summer. It's a nice constant temperature all year round without having to excessively heat or cool the building. And that comes from also being vapor permeable, hence breathable. So we don't want to, with straw and lime and most natural products, we don't want to wrap them in a synthetic or a concrete finish, because it'll be like wrapping it in a plastic bag. They just start to sweat and deteriorate. And then that probably moves on with the humidity control. So the wall, that then allows the wall to be able to absorb any excess moisture from inside the house. And when it's drier inside, it'll let that moisture out as well. So it's good for that humidity control with inside the house. No to low VOCs. Probably the only VOC that would be involved in it would be a minimal amount in some of the tints if doing a feature wall. They're just a low VOC tint there. The flexibility of, there I'm probably talking about the natural renders. So you can use that on most surfaces. So like this wall, this is actually a Besser brick wall, which is in a straw bale house, which is just being done as a feature wall behind the fireplace and the entertainment unit. Natural renders can be incorporated in most systems, like I just mentioned. So yeah, over the top of most other things, I'd like to have a look at James' product and see how we can incorporate that in as well. And at the end of the day, all the materials used can be put back into the ground, recycled into the ground. They're all earth-based. The lime reverts back to calcium carbonate, so limestone, so that can just get crushed up, put back in the ground. The hemp and the straw can all be reused as well. The lime absorbs back the same amount of carbon that's burnt off, so hence turns out to be carbon neutral over the process and over the years of that. And healthy living probably comes back to the humidity control. There's been people that have done earthen walls for kids have had asthma and health problems once they've got even a clay wall, did a clay wall render over the top of a gyprock wall, helped control the humidity and the allergens, and made that the kid didn't suffer so much from asthma there. And probably lastly, the aesthetics of the building, as I sort of touched on previously. So yeah, probably just to finish off, probably I just had a couple of points there. So like all buildings, natural materials can be used, but it still comes down to the design. So you could, if it's a crappy design, a building it's still not going to perform. It's just another material. So yeah, it can be used with best with passive solar design, or has been used with passive house designs as well. And with the attention, with it being probably a more hands-on approach to the build, and with the type of builders involved, there is a lot of attention to detail, hence it seals up quite well. We've done, in our normal practices, we've had blower door tests. We haven't done any massive wrapping to other areas, but we've still come out with without aiming for it, it's just our normal practices with about a 3.5 air exchange per hour. So we were quite happy with that, and the owners have been walk around in winter in shorts and t-shirt, and they don't have any heating or cooling in the building there. And that's probably about it.
Thank you so much, Scott. Really appreciate it. And I think the really fantastic thing to note for a lot of us is, you know, a lot of materials can be used in conjunction with each other. It's not saying that natural materials are exclusive to just fully natural building. There is a hybrid approach, and potentially that can have a lot of benefits from not only an embodied carbon, but from also a performance kind of standpoint and health performance standpoint.